Welcome, football fans, to your NFL Week 16 review on The Bottom Line View. It's Mitch, here to give you my thoughts, reaction, opinion on each game this NFL Sunday. If that sounds good, Gronk, spike the like button, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. I know some of you jabronis haven't already subscribed, so make sure to subscribe. Let me know in the comments your opinion on your favorite team this week or any game that you watched, any team that you have an opinion on, a hot take. Let me know in the comment section below. Let's get started, guys, with Sunday Night Football. An upset in Dallas on prime time. The Cowboys show up as 4-point dogs and take it outright over the Bucs 26-24. Interesting game. And I want to start off here with the coaching, because I think in Dallas, Mike McCarthy is viewed as a coach on the hot seat, a coach that needs to be removed, fired, gone, in order for the Cowboys to take that next step, reach that next level. And for Tampa, there's not a lot of heat under the seat of Todd Bowles, right? He made the playoffs last year. They won the division. They won a playoff game. They were feisty. This year, the team might make the playoffs again, right? Yeah, okay. They won the division back-to-back years. He kind of had like Tom Brady's worst season ever. But people are willing to give him a pass because of what happened last year with the team and Baker Mayfield's resurgence, and they weren't expected to be any good, so people kind of let that go. And a lot of people like Todd Bowles, and they think back to the 2020 season, the Super Bowl, right? Some iconic moments for Todd Bowles as a Buccaneer. And it's funny the difference between those two individuals. How Bowles, if you look at his record as a head coach, with the Jets, with the Bucs, at best, he's been around average. At worst, he's been one of the worst records, worst teams in football. He's had plenty of opportunities to prove what type of head coach he is. Not what type of defensive coordinator. I think you would argue that when he has been a defensive coordinator, he has been one of the short list best names in football. And some guys are just better at being a coordinator. Bowles has never really, to me, screamed head coach, because I think he does lack some judgment in game clock scenarios, in overall offense, overall command as a personality. He's very light. He's very laid back. And I think the results speak for themselves. Like, this is a game that Tampa has to win. Tampa has to win this game to win the division. And I know it's on the road, and Dallas isn't a pushover. We've seen how competitive they've been as of late. But this is a game you have to win. You have the far superior quarterback. You have the far superior offense. And the side of the football that you should be able to get ready for this game, the defense, allows 26 points to the Dallas Cowboys and never really feels like it has a handle on stopping the opponent in any game. Right? Like, the Bucs are one of the worst defenses in football, specifically against the pass. They don't consistently get pressure. They consistently allow broken coverages and broken plays. They consistently allow big plays down the field. They make bad quarterbacks look good. Sure, the run defense is very solid, and near the end of the game, it really gave them opportunities to get back in the game. But that's been the thing with Bowles forever. It's been a thing with Bowles forever. Allows a lead, gets behind, allows you to torch him through the air. Then near the end of the game, the offense gets it going. I saw this with Brady a million times. And because teams are running the ball and trying to run the clock out, the Bucs all of a sudden are stopping the run, and they're getting more opportunities. And the Bucs nearly had an opportunity at the end of this game to win the game. Last minute drive, they have the football, no timeouts, about a minute left. That's plenty of time with Baker and Evans to go down and get a field goal in a dome where you can kick it from 60. That's plenty of time. But of course, Rachaad White makes a mistake. Even that small thing. I know that Rachaad White is the pass catcher on the team, But Bucky Irving has been literally one of the best running backs in football, and he's not touching the field on the last 3 drives of the game. I don't know if that's his call, if that's the offensive coordinator, but at the end of the day, he's the head coach. You should have Bucky Irving on the field. I really don't care, especially considering all the wide receiver injuries they already have. They need as much electricity as they can possibly get. But that's where I want to start, is Bowles versus McCarthy. And I think the Bucs are going to go down the road, unfortunately, and this is how I envision it. They're probably going to make the playoffs still because the Falcons play the Commanders, and I don't think the Falcons are quite good enough to beat the Commanders, but who knows with these NFL? Who knows, truly? I think the Bucs are still going to make it. That being said, I think what they're going to end up doing is keeping Bowles and letting go of Liam Cohen. Liam Cohen end up leaving, going to another team, and being a head coach and potentially a very good offensive-minded coach for that team. I know that Dave Canales has not had a ton of success with the Panthers, but he's already showing, the success he can have with Bryce Young, how he's kind of turned around Bryce Young as an offensive guy, what he was able to do with Baker, what he was able to do with Russ, what he was able to do with Geno, right? He was inside those situations. He's a kind of a quarterback whisperer, Canales, right? Cohen has been excellent. The run game, second in yards per carry in the league this year. Previously the last 2 seasons. Not just 1, but 2. And in 2022, historically bad. He has turned around the balance of this offense. He's turned around. The screen game is phenomenal in Tampa. I think they might have the best screen game in the league. They're phenomenal. The O-line is better. They showcased their flaws in drop back pass tonight, but overall, Tampa offensively is a well-oiled machine, and they are fantastic. As for this game, though, and I want to say, if I'm the Bucs, I move on from Bowles, I hire Liam Cohen, right? This situation has popped up numerous times over the course of the NFL and recent history. And the one that I always think of is the 2016 Falcons. Who was the coach that was most responsible for their success? Was it Dan Quinn or Kyle Shanahan, right? The Falcons had an opportunity to not let Shanahan leave, and instead they let him leave, go to San Francisco, get to multiple Super Bowls, while Dan Quinn ends up getting fired a couple seasons after. Why? Because he never had an offensive coordinator like Kyle Shanahan. He couldn't replicate that. He couldn't replicate the offense that he needed to be successful. So I'm just throwing that out there. Liam Cohen is not a guy you want to leave. You want to leave. Todd Bowles can leave because his defense isn't getting it done. And really, is he a great motivator? Doesn't feel like it. Is he a great defensive coach right now, the way that he's coaching up this defense? It doesn't feel like it. And Dallas wins this game 26-24. And I look at Mike McCarthy and I say, okay, you've got injuries everywhere. You're losing linebackers. One of your most promising young players, Overshown, gets hurt last week. CeeDee Lamb's banged up playing through injury. Micah Parsons banged up playing through injury. DeMarcus Lawrence always injured. Adigizua injured sometimes, right? Deron Bland's been in and out. Dak is obviously out, right? Cooks was out and in. The O-line's banged up and, Zach Martin's been out. All these different players out, in, out, in, out, in for Mike McCarthy. And yet you look at his track record and you look at his resume lately as a coach. And this was not a Cowboys team that coming into the season I was overly impressed with. This was not a Cowboys team I even picked to make the playoffs with a fully healthy Dak Prescott. I had them, I think, at about 9-8. And I had them as just out of the playoffs. Competitive, but just out of the playoffs. You look at this recent resume over the last month. They beat Washington in Washington, 34-26. With their backup quarterback, something that the Eagles could not do. They beat the Giants on Thanksgiving. Never an easy game, Thanksgiving, for Dallas because there's a lot of pressure, especially in Mike McCarthy's case. But they won that game fairly comfortably. They lose to Cincinnati on a very fluky result where it's not really his fault, right? The player messes up. And it sets up the Bengals with an opportunity to win that game. If they get that punt, they probably win the game, right? Even going toe-to-toe with Cincinnati, considering the quarterback difference in that game, and considering all the defensive injuries you have and being able to go toe-to-toe with Cooper Rush against Joe Burrow, to me, is impressive, okay? Even if you lose. They dominated Carolina, a Carolina team that could have beaten the Bucs, could have beaten the Chiefs, beat the Cardinals today in overtime. A Carolina team that's been playing pretty well lately. Everybody knows that. They smashed them in Carolina by 16. And then they beat Tampa, a team that a lot of people the week previous was talking about as a dark horse. Like a team that could go and beat the Packers, or go to Detroit and win, or go to Philly and win. Like, Dallas, sure, they were out first down by 10, 25-15. They were out yardaged by 100, 411 to 317. Part of that was the way the game played out. Tampa was down for like pretty much the entire game and had to always fight back to get back into it because of a strong start from Dallas. And that was a clear indication of strategy, clear indication of play calling, a clear indication of coaching. Like, Mike McCarthy got this team ready to play. They got the lead, and they were able to play on their terms. Blitzing with their, double A-gap look from Zimmer, Parsons, and the front seven getting pressure on Baker. The secondary being opportunistic and getting turnover after turnover after turnover. And ultimately, the Bucs had plenty of opportunities to come back and win. But Dallas's defense, their secondary. I mean, Deron Bland, Jordan Lewis with an incredible interception on McMillan in the end zone. Multiple turnovers turned the tide of this game. The Bucs could have fumbled and lost the ball even more. There's 3 fumbles the Bucs had. 2 of them ended up, going back to Tampa Bay. In terms of Tampa's performance, I thought that Baker played decent. I wouldn't say he played bad. I wouldn't say he played good. I'd say he played decent. I thought that at times he held onto the ball too long. I thought at times, he invited the pressure, the sacks, and the turnovers, and the costly potential mistakes. I thought at other times he made absolute dime throws from within the pocket. I thought other times he made very creative, opportunistic running opportunities, throws, second plays. In terms of the receiving corps, there was a big Sterling Shepard drop on 4th down early in the game. That could have potentially, really leveled out the first quarter, because Dallas won the first quarter 10-0, right? Dallas came out, they played well early in this game. They scored 23 first half points, only 3 second half points. So Dallas faded down the stretch of this game, but a lot of it had to do with the fact that they played very conservatively at the end. They understood, they're undermanned, right? Like, They have Cooper Rush at quarterback versus Baker Mayfield. CD was kind of fighting through an injury. You couldn't really rely on him too much. The run game wasn't really working. Like, Dowdle had 13 carries for 23 yards. The run defense for the Bucs tonight was phenomenal. The contact, the hitting, the jacked up segment in this game was off the charts. There were so many big hits. So many. From Dallas to Tampa Bay. An incredible one at the end by Vita Vea on a huge 3rd down to get that stop, to get the Bucs the ball back. That ended up doing nothing for them, but still, that was an incredible play. I thought Vita Vea played really, really well in this game. I thought that almost all the time they avoided Jamel Dean. I really didn't see them target Jamel Dean very often. The Bucs clearly did miss Antoine Winfield in the middle of the field, especially early in this game. I thought that Mike Evans, I expected a bigger game from him. He had some nice plays. He had some opportunities for more big plays, but it wasn't the classic Mike Evans I would have expected in this spot. I thought Deron Bland covered him well, and I thought that Dallas had a pretty good defensive plan for him. They clearly understood that no Chris Godwin. We're going to double him. We're going to have a safety over the top. We're going to be able to try to take him out of the game when we can. And so the Bucs had to rely on other players. I thought their most effective offense a lot of the time was the quick throws or the screens, to guys like Rachaad White or Bucky Irving. No Cade Otton in this game. That also was very hurtful for them. Ryan Miller, the hockey goalie, scored a touchdown at the end of this game. I'm trying to recall what else, what that really stood out. But I really liked Dallas's play calling early. I just thought they were feeling it. Aubrey also stands out. I mean, this guy makes 50-yard field goals easy. Like, honestly, Dallas should, never lose at home because this guy is a glitch in that building. You literally get to your own 45-yard line and you have a chance for points. Like, that is... You talk about... You've got the new kickoff rule, which gives you the ball at the 30-yard line. You literally have to get one first down and you're close to getting points. Do you understand how glitchy that is? Do you understand how easy it should be to score if you're Brandon Aubrey and the Cowboys? This guy hit a 58-yard field goal with ease, another 58-yard field goal with ease, another 53-yard field goal, and a 49-yard field goal. In fantasy land, I'm pretty sure that's 18 fantasy points plus the extra point from Ezekiel Elliott plus another extra point. I think he had 20 points in fantasy. Like, this guy is unbelievable. He's kicking 58-yard field goals like it's his day job, which it is. Unbelievable stuff. But very disappointing from the Bucs. I bet on them. Of course, I lost. I mean, what else is new? I'm just surprised the quarterback didn't get hurt for me to lose the bet. That's usually what ends up happening nowadays. But I'm looking at the Bucs and I'm just disappointed. I'm disappointed that Bulls' defense did not come through. I'm disappointed that Cooper Rush was able to throw for 292 yards, 26 for 35, and a touchdown. Bucs blow this game. Give the Cowboys credit. I think they're a lot better than people give them credit for. I think that they are in that tier of they're feisty, not quite a playoff team, but they're that next level. Feisty football team. You take them lightly early, you get behind, they can play their style of football, you're in trouble. CeeDee Lamb's a dog. Give CeeDee Lamb a ton of love. He played phenomenal tonight, and he's been playing hurt, clearly. Defensively, I thought Dallas, some of those guys played amazing. Donovan Wilson, Jordan Lewis, Deron Bland. Really good games. So, those are my Sunday Night Football thoughts, guys. 26-24 Dallas. Baker could not get it done this time. He could not muster up enough for the comeback, despite outgaining the Cowboys, outrunning the Cowboys by 100 yards, 10 more first downs, costly turnovers at the end that might have cost the Bucs a chance at a comeback on Sunday night. So, let's move on. This slate coming in was not one that I was super excited for. It didn't have a lot of marquee games on it, in my opinion. And if you guys haven't already, Gronk spiked the like button. Which game do I want to go to next? Because I kind of want to spread out the good stuff, right? Let's start off in the morning. The 10 a.m. Pacific time slate, which is why I call it the morning, because I'm on the Pacific. 24-6. Cincinnati beats the Browns at home. They win, they cover. Browns never really had a chance in this game outside of the first drive in which they broke a long run from Jerome Ford. And they ended up driving all the way down to the 1-yard line. And on the 1-yard line, they got stuffed. They got stopped. Right after that happened, the game was over. Cincinnati won the game, and they never lost control of the game from there. Now, were there points where Cincinnati couldn't really move the ball, couldn't really establish, a full time of possession and control? Yes, there was plenty of chances where Cleveland's defense played exceptionally well and was able to get stops and keep their offense in the game. But when you have Dorian Thompson-Robinson at quarterback, you have no chance. He is awful. 20 for 34, 157, and 2 interceptions. And if I recall, they went for it on fourth down multiple times. 3 times, to be exact. They got 1. They missed 2. Thompson Robinson turned it over numerous times. Trey Hendrickson had a huge game. I thought he played phenomenal in this game. 5 sacks for the Bengals. Cleveland had 4 of them. Joe Burrow played really, really well. 23 for 30, 252, and 3 touchdowns. I will say there was one play where he was like, I don't know what he was thinking. They were at the 1-yard line, and I want to say it was 3rd and goal at the 1. And they had an opportunity to just extend the lead if he just throws an incomplete pass at the 1-yard line. You know, just extend the lead with a field goal or maybe go for it on fourth down, right? And Burrow, instead, he runs around in circles, gets strip sacked, and the Browns recover like 30 yards down the field. At their own like 35-yard line, it felt like. Blown opportunity for points there, which Burrow, I will say, as good as he's been lately, he has a lot more of those plays in recent weeks than people actually pay attention to. Like bad interceptions, bad fumbles, bad sacks, where he holds on the ball too long. But then you get a lot of plays today, especially, where he's like slipping through one tackle, slipping through another tackle, diving forward, like pitching the ball forward, and then the guy goes for a first down. Or like he makes a guy miss. He runs outside the pocket. He throws a crosser. It's a first down. He gets outside the pocket. He makes a throw. It's another first down. You know what I mean? So, yeah, Burrow had plenty of points where it felt like, oh, he's going to get sacked. He's going to get sacked. Oh, no, he makes a crazy play. He flips the ball forward. There was one, I think, in the red zone. I think it was a touchdown. It was a crazy touchdown. I think it was to T. Higgins, if I'm not mistaken. Was it the first touchdown in the game? I think Burrow, like, launched himself forward. He was going to get sacked. He, like, launched himself forward. He's, like, an inch off the ground, and he throws it for a touchdown. Unbelievable stuff. T. Higgins said he's not Batman. He's Superman. You know, he threw 3 touchdowns in this game. The last one was funky. Burrow draws the defense offside. Myles Garrett offside. The corner kind of falls asleep. Chase runs by him. It's a 32-yard touchdown to kind of seal the game. 24-6. Meanwhile, I've got John on Patreon in my DM saying, hey, bro, what's going on with the Bengals? They can't do this. They can't do that. They're frustrating. But they win the game by 18. So, yeah, it wasn't the cleanest offensive game from the Bengals. I've seen better. But they still ran the ball for over 100 yards. They still had 326 yards, which was about 50 more than the Browns. The Browns really got one big run from Ford, and that was about it. Chase Brown played well, 18 carries for 91 yards, 5.1 on the ground. Njoku had 8 for 66 for the Browns. Jamar had 6 for 97 and a touchdown. Yossi Voss had a really nice touchdown as well. And a couple nice catches. T. Higgins had some, typical conversions on third down, stuff like that. But I thought Burrow played a good game. Sound, accurate, on time. A lot of the times, though, there were drives where they just kind of stalled out. I thought that the Browns got some pressure on him. I thought they played sticky coverage. There were times that Denzel Ward won against Jamar Chase, which has been one of his tougher matchups throughout his career. But I think this has shown the evolution of Jamar Chase to where there's even times where he's facing Denzel Ward, which was not the touchdown. I think it was some other guy. And he just looks like a more diverse player. Like he has more tools in his bag to beat an opponent. Like he's got more slipperiness, more quickness, more of I feel like Chase has definitely worked on his route running craft, definitely the ability to break his route off. Like he looks like he's evolved. Maybe it's just the ability to get just a little bit older to where you're not younger than everyone you're playing against, and like you're reaching your peak of like your physical NFL career. But maybe that's some of it, but I feel like he's definitely gotten better in some aspects, the best receiver in football right now. But yeah, that's all that really needs to be said about that game. The Bengals, of course, are still alive in the playoff race. I really don't know why Cleveland is playing this kid DTR. He is horrible. The only reason you would be playing him is to get a better draft pick. That's literally the only reason. He's bad, okay? But the Bengals defense, considering the opponent, they had turnovers. They made plays. Geno Stone had a pick. Hendrickson was sacking the quarterback. They forced a number of plays. I think 3 turnovers. So that's a good sign for Cincinnati, too. Turnovers, good defense, only 6 points allowed. Their 2 best defensive games of the season have come against Deshaun Watson and Dorian Thompson-Robinson, the Browns. Another blowout was 34-7 Atlanta over the Giants. All right, Atlanta, of course, was starting Michael Penix, the rookie out of Washington. He went 18 for 27, 202, and 1 interception on the day. The interception was a throw that went off the hands of Kyle Pitts, and I want to say it was in the red zone. Off the hands of Kyle Pitts, and it was intercepted. It was a little bit of an awkward play, but, that just, I think, encapsulates the career of Kyle Pitts. Drew Lock had an up and down day. Early on, I thought he was playing really well. He did have 2 interceptions, both returned for touchdowns, believe it or not. Some Matt Schaub type statistics. Matt Judon had a touchdown, and Jesse Bates had a touchdown. The Judon one, I think, was on a screen or something. And then Jesse Bates, just unbelievable player. I think he might be the best safety in the league, probably has been the last 2 years collectively. He's unbelievable. He's so good. Atlanta did control this game, especially on the ground. They ran the ball well. Bijan, 94 yards on 22 carries, 4.3 yards a clip. I thought that the biggest thing I noticed from Penix, which I think is the reason you guys want to hear about this game, is the power throws. The arm strength. He wasn't, amazing or anything. The stat line kind of indicates that. But I thought he showcased an athleticism that hasn't been relevant or prevalent in this offense. The power throws over the middle on a crosser to Darnell Mooney for 15 yards. A quick tight window throw to Drake London. A scramble for 7 yards when you need it. Cousins isn't doing those things, right? Cousins perhaps has better accuracy, better overall feel for the game, but he's not eluding a rush and running. He's not making a power strike at, the intermediate level like Penix was. I thought there was a number of those plays where I was I gave that little nod where I was I see it. I see something there. There's something there. He's athletic. He's big. He's got the size, the stature. He's got the arm. You see it translate a little bit. The O-line's protecting him. Now, he is playing the Giants. All right? And I will say the Giants competed defensively. They tried. There was a number of plays where they forced negative runs. They tried their best. Offensively, they really couldn't do a lot. I think the Atlanta defense played a good game. They forced, the Giants 3 for 9 on 3rd down, 0 for 1 on 4th down. Giants only had 14 first downs, only 234 total yards. Tracy couldn't really run the ball. It's a one-dimensional offense with Drew Lock and a bad offensive line. It's not exactly ideal. Tracy actually had a really good game catching the ball. He caught a touchdown at the back of the end zone, which was really impressive for a running back. He was a former receiver in college. Malik Neighbors had his volume and his targets, but didn't really wow anybody out there. London was fine. I didn't think he was amazing. The Giants also had 10 penalties compared to the Falcons having 3 penalties for 30 yards. They had 10 for 85. And I just felt like Atlanta was always in control. In control, running the ball, play action, a little bit of a quick throw every once in a while. But their defense gave them control. Their run game gave them control. They were able to go down the field when they needed to. And 2 touchdowns by the defense. That's probably what aided it, right? Because you look at their offense, they only really put together 20 points, right? Their offense. Their defense scored 14 of it. This did feel like, that very much makes sense, because this more so felt like a 20-7 game than a 34-7 game, right? 34-7 more so you would think, oh, that's a great offensive performance, right? Not really. I mean, 329 yards, 202 passing yards. Like, it wasn't a showcase of superb offense. But what I will say is they were able to extend drives, go on deep drives, and that was because third down, 8 for 14. Okay? So some pick sixes, some good plays by the defense, put that together with a more explosive quarterback performance despite an interception that wasn't really his fault, a good running game, getting guys like Darnell Mooney back involved in the offense where he's been quiet as of late because that deep threat hasn't really been relevant. And that's about it. So that's Falcons over the Giants, 34-7. You guys let me know in the comments what you thought of Michael Penix after your watch. All right. Next up, we've got another blowout. Detroit over Chicago, 34-17. Detroit wins by 17. This was one of those games where it was over like before you knew it. You snap your fingers and it's like, it's over. Like first quarter, 17-0 Lions. You could argue it's over right there. Or 13-0 Lions. And then it's 20-0 Lions in the early second quarter. And you're like, it's over. Now, the reason it was over is because the Lions, they drove the length of the field pretty much down to about the 20-yard line. They kicked a field goal from Bates to take a 3-0 lead. Good drive, right? Running the ball, play action, the classic Lions stuff. Gibbs, who, by the way, is phenomenal. I mean, Gibbs is a top 5 running back in football. He's got quickness. He's got elusiveness. He's got rare make-you-miss ability. He's powerful. He's a great pass catcher. He's explosive. He's probably the most explosive back in football right now. At least one of the top 2 or 3, you know. Sam Laporta had a really good game. You know, he got into it early. Jamison Williams had an amazing game. He got into it early. Great protection. Goff was comfortable. The one thing I want to say about Goff, you know, this game was, again, statistically really, really good. 23 for 32, 326 and 3. The throw to Jamison Williams on like the deep post was phenomenal. There was a couple nice throws by Goff in this game. Even the touchdown on like the fake fumble Ruski play, which I think it was intended to Sam Laporta, was pretty nice too. But I think what Goff does better than a lot of the mid quarterbacks is he does a much better job of progressing through the reads and the offense and understanding when to check the ball down and when to throw it like for a couple of yards. Like one thing that just drives me nuts is when quarterbacks don't know when to throw the ball away, don't know when to like just throw the ball at the ground, don't know when to like throw the check down. Like when it's open, just take the profit. You know, Goff does an excellent job of that stuff. And maybe it's because the offensive line gives him so much time to survey the field that he always has an opportunity to check it down. So it just appears that way. But I watch guys like Brock Purdy and I'm like, bro, you've got a guy open. Just fucking throw it. Like, don't wait for the guy that you think's going to be open the entire play because Kyle told you the guy's going to be open like during the whole week. Just throw the ball to the running back for 5 yards and live to see another day. You know what I mean? Jared Goff is really good at that area of his game, and I think that's the most underrated part of his game. He's a very good manager of the offense. It doesn't mean he's not a good quarterback. The manager word is kind of like misdescribed. I think he just keeps the offense on task extremely well, better than most quarterbacks. Probably like 95% of quarterbacks. He's better at that area of the game than a lot of players. And that's considering that he doesn't even really have the legs to where he can like create 5 yards on his own, right? Like some more talented guys do, like Caleb Williams, who sure has more physical talent, but he's not even close to Jared Goff. And the reason this game was a blowout early is because Rome Odunze, who I just want to say Rome Odunze, like watching him, just like looking at him, you know, I look at this guy and I'm like, this guy has no swag. This guy has no aura. You look at this guy and you just see like a bland wide receiver. You know what I'm saying? You guys ever watch the Chicago version of Rome Odunze? Remember him at Washington? Where like he looked like a dog. Like you just look at his aesthetic. You know what I'm saying? You look at him in Chicago right now, I don't know what it is. He looks skinny. The mask is like not fitting his face. It's like he's wearing the wrong sunglasses, bro. He's got the wrong haircut. Like, the helmet looks too tight to his damn head. Like, he just looks clunky and awkward. I don't know if it's like a rookie young guy thing or like, I don't know what it is. But it appears off, and I think that's legitimately making him a worse player in my mind. But then you see him fumble the ball twice in the first half. The Bears are just a bad football team. They're poorly coached. They're poorly ran. They're poorly operated. They poorly execute the game. We knew their defense wasn't going to make a stop. We knew their defense wasn't going to be able to stop the run. You know, we thought maybe, okay, the pass defense because they've played well against Goff, but that's not really, you know, and you look at what the Lions did through the passing game. Play action, play action, play action, screen, play action, play action, play action, screen. Like that's what they do. Block and release, throw over the middle, quick curl to Jameson Williams. Then you hit the deep post. You know, you run it, you set up a screen. You run it, you set up a screen. Like, Chicago, what can you do? They basically replicated what the Niners did to Chicago. Pretty much, you know? And you throw a little bit of Jameson Williams in there. I just love watching the Lions when Gibbs and Jameson Williams are playing. And they're playing like this. Because, man, the explosiveness is real. Like, they're so fast, twitchy, explosive. And then you get Sam Laporta mixed in there a little bit. Amon-Ra gets my juices flowing, bro. My blood boiling. But DeAndre Swift sucks. I just want to point that out. Keenan Allen is fat. He still had 9 catches, 141 yards, and a touchdown somehow. And basically the entire second half was Caleb Williams just throwing the ball and getting stats, like empty stats, to Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze just mossing people left and right. That was basically the entire second half. Fourth down, okay, I'm not going to hit the guy wide open for 7 yards. I'm just going to throw it up one-on-one to Rome Odunze. Oh, he caught it. Cool. Oh, this play, Keenan Allen's open. I'm just going to throw it, you know. And there were some breakdowns defensively for Detroit in the second half. But this has been a theme of Chicago the last, 6 weeks. They look better than they are because they get annihilated in the first half. They're not ready to play. Caleb does nothing in the first half, can't complete a fucking pass. They can't block anybody. Their defense gets run over in the first half. The other team takes them lightly. And then they come out and Caleb does his circus act. He runs around in circles. He throws a bunch of lasers. And then they all of a sudden, they get 19 first downs and 382 yards. And you're like, oh, it wasn't that bad. Still, Caleb's pretty bad. You know what I'm saying? 27 first downs for Detroit. 7 for 12 on third down. Extremely efficient. 475 yards. Their run game was unstoppable. Didn't matter who was running it, but Gibbs was electric. They only punted 1 time. 10 penalties for Chicago, 7 for Detroit. Detroit gets a big win. It's a big win, believe it or not. They lose last week to Buffalo. They want to get back at it. That's a good way to do it. It wasn't, I think this is the type of game they need to play in order to go to where they want to go moving forward with all their defensive injuries. This is the type of game they need to play. I thought that, even in the first half, to finish this game off, it's not like their defense was really getting stops. They were kind of benefiting from mistakes, which is fine. I'm not going to say that's a negative for Detroit, but it's something to think about. Chicago's just a bad football team. They were fumbling the ball, 34-17 Detroit. 38-30, the Colts win over the Titans, a crazy game. The Titans went up 7-0. Calvin Ridley, 38-yard touchdown. Thank you for my fantasy. A field goal that missed. Okay. A field goal that missed. They could have went up 10-0 in this game. And then what do you know? The Colts score not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, 6 consecutive All right. 6 consecutive scores. I think it was 38-7 at one point. The Colts scored 24 points in the second quarter, 14 points in the third quarter, and then the Titans almost came back. I remember looking at the scoreboard, I'm like, it's 38-22. Like, it's a 16-point game with like 10 minutes left. Like, the Titans might come back. I remember looking at the score and I'm like, this might actually happen. I'm like, how did this happen? Because I kind of wasn't watching it anymore. I'm like, what? Like, the game's over, you know? And early in the game, Anthony Richardson was awful. Like, they drove down the field on their first possession. They threw a pick in the red zone. He just threw it to Hooker. Like, here's the ball. Threw it right to the other team. And Richardson, guys, guess how many completions he had in the game? They scored 38 points. Don't look at the stats. Put in the comments right now, guess how many completions Anthony Richardson had without looking at the stats. And the Colts scored 38 points. I'll give you 5 seconds. Seven completions. Anthony Richardson had 7 completions in a game in which they won 38-30. They scored 38 points. One of the throws, I think, was like a nice downfield throw. One of them was like a quick Pittman completion early in the game. One of them was a screen to Josh Downs that went for a long touchdown that he did nothing on. He just threw the ball to the right. That was like the best play of the game for the passing game. Like, this guy sucks. He wouldn't be good in the CFL. Jonathan Taylor had an epic performance in the fantasy football consolation bracket because none of his teams made the playoffs or are in the semifinals because he's been a bust. Jonathan Taylor, unbelievable game after what was a horrific Denver performance. 29 for 218 yards, 7.5 yards per touch, 3 touchdowns. I don't know what happened to the Titans defense, but especially their run defense. They have a problem with rushing quarterbacks. Richardson also had a day running the ball. He did, okay? But Taylor did as well. I mean, 218 yards, forget about it. That's Saquon numbers, all right? So, yeah, Anthony Richardson ran it well. They had an issue with Malik Willis. They had an issue with Jayden Daniels. We brought this up in our preview for the week. They really struggle with that. I don't know. They need to fix that, like coaching-wise. And their defense feels like they've given up. Mason Rudolph had like some decent moments, but threw 3 picks. Like, he threw an awful pick to Moore at the beginning, closer to the I want to say it was like the second quarter. He threw a pick. The Colts capitalized on that. I think they got a field goal. He threw a pick at the end, which doesn't really count, but it was also to Moore as well. And then he threw a pick. I don't remember the other one. I don't remember the other one, but he threw 3 picks in the game, 252 yards and 2 touchdowns in the comeback. You know, Tennessee had almost as many first downs. Colts did have 458 yards, 335 rushing yards, which is insane. Okay, both teams punted 4 times. The Titans couldn't run the ball either. Spears did nothing. He did have 2 touchdowns, and he did have a 2-point conversion, but he did nothing. Pollard did nothing. Nick Westbrook-Akine had a couple of plays. Chiga Okonkwo had a ton of catches. A ton. If you need a tight end for fantasy, he might be the guy next week. I'm not sure who they play, but yeah. Yeah. Jonathan Taylor. Epic. The Colts are still in the playoff race. I'm pretty sure they need the Bengals to win out, the Broncos to lose out, and the Colts are in. If the Colts win out. So they're still somehow in this. And I just really hope they don't make it because I can't watch Richardson in a playoff game. I just can't do it. 7 completions. And I didn't chart the completions. But I want to say, like, there was like 3 nice passes out of the 7. One of them was like a screen pass, or 2 of them were like, the guy literally did nothing throwing the ball. They just ran it. He ran it, they ran it. Like, Titans defense, what are you doing? 38-30. Colts win. What the heck was that? All right. Next up, the Carolina Panthers and the Arizona Cardinals. 36-30. In overtime, the Panthers win it. Huge loss for the Cardinals. They are eliminated from the playoffs with that loss. The Cardinals, 1 more first down than Carolina. Pretty much identical on third down. Carolina had 2 fourth down conversions. Arizona had 1. Both teams ran for over 200 yards in the game. Both running backs went nuclear. Hubbard and Connor went nuts. Kyler was shit for like most of the game. Still ended up with over 20 fantasy points. Bryce Young was actually pretty good in the game. Adam Thielen had a good game. McBride is just a good player. I wouldn't say he had an amazing game, but he made some nice plays. Both teams had 3 sacks. Like, the stats are pretty much identical, except for the Cardinals had 1 interception where Kyler kind of like missed through the ball on like almost a punt type of scenario. Carolina punted 5 times. Cardinals only 3 times. The Cardinals also fumbled. I can't remember who fumbled, though. I don't think it was James Conner. I don't think so. So Kyler went 20 for 32, 202, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Bryce Young went 17 for 26, 158, and 2 touchdowns. I thought Bryce was really good running the ball, too. He showed some elusiveness. He showed some vision. He showed an ability to take off, protect himself when doing so. I thought he made some nice plays, especially in the first half. I thought he had a really good first half. He had a rushing touchdown and a passing touchdown in the first half. You know, the same old thing from Bryce Young the last few weeks. I think this was a lot better than last week. He didn't put the ball in jeopardy or harm's way nearly as much. I thought his receivers were better just in terms of separating and making plays for him. I thought that the protection was there for him as well. And he did a good job of eluding and kind of creating and buying time for that extra second. Hubbard was great, especially at the end of this game. You know, at the beginning of the game, James Conner was dominating. He had like 25 fantasy points in the first 3 quarters of the game. 15 carries, 117 rushing yards for a touchdown. He had 7.8 yards per clip. Then he had like another 60 receiving yards, I want to say. They were screening them up, and Connor was making some plays, and then he gets hurt. Honestly, I think if James Conner doesn't get hurt, the Cardinals probably win this game because he was like running people over, like literally running them over. Like he was steamrolling people in this game. But Hubbard, you know, he pretty much did his thing. 25 for 152, 2 touchdowns, 6.1 yards per carry. And he finishes the game off with a touchdown in overtime, 21 yards out with an incredible play, you know, breaking tackles, getting through the lane and going. But he dominated on the ground too, which the Cardinals have heavily struggled with in recent weeks. There was also, you know, a few sacks from each team. I'm trying to recall. So Carolina dominated early. They were up 20 to 3 because they missed the extra point. And then the Cardinals came back, got really tight. You know, it was 20 to 17, 23-17. Cardinals stayed within distance. Cardinals got a field goal. Kyler took off for a long touchdown in the 4th quarter to end up, you know, kind of forcing this game to be really tight at the end. Cardinals got a stop. Bryce Young tried to hit, I think it was Hubbard, in the flat. So, like, they ran this concept. It was like a 4th down. Was it a 4th down or a 3rd down? It was 3rd down. It was 3rd down and 2. And if the Panthers get this, they would win the game. And it was in the 4th quarter. And they ran like this, like just this flat, kind of like a rub route underneath. He's open. He's got a step, and Bryce kind of missed him. So that was not a good spot for Bryce. Like that was bad. He's got to hit that. And Hubbard's got to be able to, kind of take a better path to the football. If I'm remembering the play correctly. And he missed it. They got a stop. Cardinals got a stop. And then they were able to set up Ryland for a 58-yard field goal, and he made it. The same Chad Ryland who couldn't make a kick last year. That's just how kickers are, man. It's just crazy. But I want to give Carolina credit. I thought that they came out, they played well, especially offensively. They ran the ball, they threw the ball, they had good balance. Their playmakers showed up. I thought that the Cardinals took a little bit too long to get into the game. I thought that they were a little bit too pass happy early, it felt like. Like they needed to focus on just getting James Conner the ball, getting him involved. Like they were running all over Carolina. It just felt like a weird point of emphasis. Their defense really didn't play that well in this game, Arizona. And in overtime, they just weren't able to make a lot of plays. And to me, Carolina's pass defense, pass coverage-wise, pass drop-back pass-wise, was a lot better than Arizona's. Like, Kyler struggled. Kyler struggled to make passes. Kyler struggled to read the field. Kyler struggled to find guys open. Kyler just struggled in general. He struggled with pretty much everything across the board as a quarterback, throwing the ball. I felt like. It wasn't like he was pressured a ton, but it felt like he was always trying to create something that wasn't there or was never there, or he couldn't get that second play to work. Like there was a scramble drill and he wouldn't be able to find anybody. There were so many of those plays in this game. So the Panthers win 36-30 over the Cardinals. 36-33, the Commanders take it over the Philadelphia Eagles in perhaps the game of the day. 36-33, Commanders upset the Eagles. This, to me, Jalen Hurts gets hurt on, I think, the late portion of the second drive in the first quarter. And the Eagles go up 14-0 nonetheless, with Kenny Pickett hitting A.J. Brown on a slant for a touchdown. Saquon scored the opening touchdown. The Eagles are up 14-0, domination. It looks like they're going to run away with this game, regardless of who's at quarterback. 14-0 lead. 21-7 lead. What else? 27-14 lead. How many different leads is that? 14-0, 21-7, 27-7. In the third quarter, Commanders scored 22 fourth quarter points against the supposed best defense in football. Regardless of who's at quarterback for the Eagles, this is a horrific loss by Nick Sirianni and the Eagles. And it's concerning to me. Because, I'll give you a big reason. Washington turned the ball over 5 times. 5. Between Jayden Daniels throwing interceptions, fumble by Washington, fumbles by Washington in general. It felt like Washington in the first half, they couldn't get out of their own way. They would fumble it when they had an opportunity. They would throw a pick. Daniels under pressure, throw a pick. They couldn't find anywhere to go with the ball early in the game. They couldn't run the ball to save their lives. Yes, you give the Eagles defense credit for that, but then they fall apart in the fourth quarter when the other team isn't self-destructing. You can't lose a game where you're leading the game 3 times by double digits. 3 times by double digits. By 2 scores. 3 times. And you get 5 forced turnovers. 5. Yeah, sure. Kenny Pickett threw a pick that resulted in a short field score for the Eagles. That was their first touchdown of the game. Gave Washington a little momentum. I think the Eagles might have fumbled as well. But Washington turned it over 5 times. And they scored 22 points in the fourth quarter, including a game-winning drive where your offense set Kenny Pickett set the Eagles up with a 5-point lead at the end of the game with the best defense in football having to close the game out. And you couldn't do it. And Kenny Pickett threw the ball into the hands of Devontae Smith, and he dropped it. The game's over if he catches the ball. Game's probably very much over. He catches it, he gets the first down. Maybe they run it down to like 30 seconds left. They kick a field goal, and then Washington has a very small chance of scoring a touchdown in that amount of time. And then you talk about the defense. Horrific tackling, coverage busts, soft zones, lack of pressure, terrible scramble defense, terrible contain defense, no ability to understand that Jayden Daniels is going to run for a first down on 4th and 4 and 4th and 11. What are you doing? Who are you playing against? So to me, terrible execution by the players, terrible preparation by Fangio and the defense, terrible defensive performance. Despite 5 turnovers, they played like ass in the big moments of this game. The Zaccheaus touchdown was inexcusable. Missed tackle attempt. Blankenship looks unathletic. Misses another tackle. Zaccheaus scores. They made Zaccheaus look like Julio Jones in this game. He had 2 touchdowns, 5 catches, 70 yards. Washington converted 7 for 13 third downs, 2 for 3 fourth downs. They had 368 yards, despite getting sacked 4 times and having 5 turnovers. I want to say, Daniels was not perfect in this game, far from it. In the first half, he was borderline bad. Probably worse than bad. In the second half, he was just very gutsy. That is the definition of gutsy. It wasn't a perfect game. It was a flawed game. But he made ballsy throws and ballsy runs. And he kept his team in this game, and he won this game for his team. Right? They don't win without him getting hit with a ball thrown to the end zone for Terry McLaurin. Was McLaurin open? Yeah. Was that the right throw? Yeah. But did he get smashed while he threw it? Absolutely. And he made a nice throw on top of it. Zaccheaus, wide open down the sidelines. Is he open if Jayden Daniels doesn't extend that play just a little bit to get him open? Maybe not. So you got to give him credit for that. The fourth downs, the ability to put the team on your back and run. It felt like they couldn't tackle the kid. And then in the fourth quarter, on those game-winning drives, on those drives where they needed it the most, his precise accuracy, his ability to stay in rhythm, stay in the game, stay with the offense, the quick throws to the outside to guys like Zaccheaus, to guys like De'Ami Brown, getting the offense flowing. Taking what the defense gives you, playing correct 2-minute drill offense, not panicking, not always looking for the shot, not always looking for the big play. So, yeah, Daniels was sloppy. Definitely. 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 258 through the air, 24 for 39. But gutsy. Absolutely gutsy. And that far outweighed his mistakes early in the game. So, and that was one of the better performances we've seen by an offense, if not the best performance we've seen by an offense against the Eagles. Because, 22 of the points came in the fourth quarter, but still, it was phenomenal, late in the game that they were able to do what they did. Jamison Crowder is still playing football. That's wild. Jamison Crowder had a touchdown in this game. 2 touchdowns, the game-winning touchdown. And a touchdown earlier. He's still playing football. They couldn't run the ball either. That's what also kind of makes this impressive is Daniels was their best run threat. He was their best pass threat. He kept them in the game with his performance, with his gutsiness, with his scramble drills, with his deep ball. And then the defense, for Washington, they also made timely stops, forcing field goals, timely turnovers. They played with energy. And I also feel like at the same time, Kenny Pickett didn't play that bad. Like 14 for 24, 143, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Sure, the interception was bad. I didn't think he played that bad. He got sacked a few times. Washington's front played with passion. Saquon did not do much in the second half. He had 1 electric touchdown for about 68 yards early, and he didn't really do anything in the second half, and that was the key to the game. Because the Eagles couldn't rely on Saquon to finish this game. They couldn't rely on the run game to finish this game. And that's what allowed Washington to come back, steam back, and just win. Because Washington stopped the run, something that they've very rarely done this year, in the second half. And that allowed opportunity after opportunity after opportunity in the window, like we talked about with the Bucs and Cowboys, the window to stay open for a comeback. And Saquon was not able to run. I think a large part of that was early, the Eagles were really getting the Commanders with a lot of zone read, a lot of read option. Like, the Commanders had no answer for Hurts running it or Saquon running it, and they always have to treat Hurts as a threat running the ball. Kenny Pickett, not so much. They sold out to stop Saquon. You throw in the fact that only 3 Eagles caught a pass. That is pathetic. That's really bad in the year 2024. That funnel of your offense is so limited. That makes your offense very easy to defend when you only throw the ball to A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, or you run the ball with Saquon. That's your entire offense. The only other guy to catch the ball was Kenneth Gainwell. Literally, look at the box score. It's the weirdest box score you've ever seen. A.J. Brown, 8 catches, I think, or something like that. Devontae Smith, 7 or 6 catches or something like that. And then Kenneth Gainwell, 1 catch. Literally 1 target for anyone not named A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith. That is wild work. Like, no wonder you lost this game. Now, I don't know if that's on the offense. I don't know if that's on the deployment of the play calling. I don't know if that's on Kenny Pickett. But that's pathetic. You can't play NFL football. You look at the box score for Washington: Crowder, Zaccheaus, Brown, Ertz, Robinson. You look at you go down, there's like 7 or 8 guys that caught a pass. That's typical for a good offense. The Eagles, 3 players, and one of them got 1 target, and he's the backup running back. Saquon didn't even get a target? Are you serious? He didn't get a catch? Not even a screen? You got Kenny Pickett? You didn't even throw a screen to Saquon? What are we talking about? So, yeah, I thought this was a very eye-opening, bad performance for the Eagles. Good performance, gutsy performance, great win for the Commanders. They took advantage of a team in the Eagles that had their backup quarterback. But to me, like, you can't lose a game that you have 5 turnovers forced. That you're up 5 with the best defense in the league at the end of the game. You can't lose that game. You can't lose a game where you're up 3, 3 scores like 3 times. So, and you can't lose a game when you know what they're going to do. They're going to target McLaurin. They're going to run with their quarterback. Daniels is going to run on 4th down. You still can't stop it. Credit to Daniels, but that is not good Eagles defense. That's not good. So, that's a bad loss in my opinion. Good win by the Commanders, but I think it's a worse loss by the Eagles. I really do. And even the Eagles at one point, they were trailing, I think, 28-27. They went for it on 4th down like 3 times, and Kenny Pickett got it every time. Like, you're relying on your backup quarterback to go for it like 3 times on 4th down. You still get it. You still get the field goal, and you still don't win? Like, what? So, anyone that blames Kenny Pickett really didn't watch the game, in my opinion. I don't know, man. Let's move on to the most misleading box score of the day, in my opinion. That's 19-9. The Rams take it over the Jets. This was wild. So, the Jets, it felt like in the first half, they had the ball for like out of 30 minutes, they had the ball for 25 minutes. Like, I swear. They must have had the ball, like, for 25 minutes in the first half. And the Jets thoroughly dominated the Rams in the first half of the game. And yet, it was 9-6. The Jets randomly went for 5 fourth downs in the game. Like, there were points when they were winning the game, and they still went for it on, like, 4th and 4 in field goal range. And they still went for it. Like, they were just going for it to go for it for fun. Like, it's like they wanted to lose. Like, it was absurd. It was bizarre. Like, truly. Watching the Rams, it was an absolutely pathetic offensive performance from them. I thought they were atrocious on offense. Stafford was 14 for 19 only because he threw about 10 screens. They had 110 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. And you've got to continue to ask yourself, Rams in weather or any sort of cold are a bunch of pansies. I thought that their offense was pathetic. Their passing offense was pathetic. This was not a huge game from Puka Nacua. A lot of his targets were underneath. A lot of his targets were screens. Stafford only had 5 incompletions. I wouldn't say he played bad. He had a terrible interception early in the game. But I don't really think that he necessarily played bad because they didn't give him a lot of opportunities. I thought, honestly, like, Sean McVay made this game very close. Like, Sean McVay, he pressed the halfback dive button like 20 times on Madden. The guy just kept running halfback dive with Kyren Williams. It was excruciating. It was so hard to watch. Now, Kyren ended up with good yardage, like 122 for 5.3 yards per carry, but I think it made the game close. Like, the Rams really didn't even want to throw the ball in this game. They threw the ball 19 times, and they were trailing for like 90% of the game. You know what I'm saying? Like, they were just running the ball, like, every play. And then they would run a screen. Like, they had like 4 play calls. They had empty formation, quick throw. They had a quick wide receiver screen, or they had halfback dive. Bro, Sean McVay literally didn't game plan for this game. He had like 5 plays. I don't know what he was doing. He must have been in Cabo this week. But the Jets let them win because the Jets are just candy asses. Like, they are a bunch of idiots. Devontae Adams had some nice plays. He had a touchdown, 7 catches, 68 yards. But again, you talk about Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson and the percentage of catches that they have in terms of their catches to targets. 7 catches on 13 targets. Like, that's not going to win you football games. That's too many incompletions. Rodgers just forces the ball to his guys way too much, man, at this point in his career. 28 for 42, Aaron Rodgers, 256 and a touchdown. I actually thought he played pretty well. I actually thought he outplayed Stafford by quite a wide margin. He only got sacked 1 time. I thought he actually did a great job of kind of manipulating the pocket and kind of dancing around and trying to find somebody open a number of times. I thought his play action fakes were absurd in terms of good. I thought that, you know, he did a good job of rolling out and getting outside the pocket. I thought Rodgers actually played pretty well. It's kind of crazy to say because they only scored 9 points, but it felt like they moved the ball really well in the game. They moved the ball really well, and then they would go for it, and they wouldn't get it. Or they missed a field goal at the end that would have, you know, like... They also, of course, had 8 penalties in the game for 82 yards. They outgained the Rams. 321 to 242. And they lost. They had 130 more passing yards. Like, the Jets are just, they're poorly coached. Their defense played hard, but like, they didn't have Quinnen Williams in this game, and the Rams took advantage. They just kept running halfback dive. Tyler Higbee was back for the first time this season. He scored a touchdown. That was kind of a cool moment, but this game was so unwatchable. It was really hard to watch. It was terrible. It was bad offense. Cooper Kupp, again, looked pathetic. Like, it was gross, man. The Rams are sometimes, they're just a very gross football team. I don't think they're very good. You know, they beat the Bills. Everyone jumps. They were, like, last week, they were brutal to watch. This week, they were brutal to watch. Like, The Rams are not even a fun team to watch. You know what I mean? It just hurts me to watch them. My eyes hurt. Like, gross, man. Stafford sold my fantasy team. Next, we've got the Vikings and the Seahawks. 27-24 Vikings. Some of my friends were at this game. One of them, Jack, being a Vikings fan. Shout out to him. You're probably not watching this, but shout out to him anyways. 23 first downs for Seattle, 19 for Minnesota. 361 yards for Seattle, 298 for Minnesota. So outgained, out first downed. And punts, 5 for Seattle, 6 for Minnesota. Penalties, Seattle had 11. Minnesota had 7. Fumbles lost, 1 for Minnesota. And sacks, 3 for Seattle, 2 for Minnesota. Run game for both teams was non-existent, which is kind of what I handicapped in this game. I picked Seattle to win this game in an upset. I was pretty close. They did at least, it was a 3-point spread. So, pretty much a tie there. But 27-24 and a little bit higher scoring than I would have expected. This game was a good game if you enjoy quarterbacks being daredevils, throwing the ball into tight windows, and wide receivers with great talent making absurd catches. Like, if you like watching quarterbacks make tight window throw after tight window throw, big time throw after big time throw, downfield throw after downfield throw, you would have enjoyed this game. It wasn't the most calculated offense in the world by either team. A lot of it was well defended, but the talent on the field, like, this is a classic example of defenses, this being a misleading defensive game. This game, for a lot of teams without the receivers that the Vikings and the Seahawks have, is probably 17-14, not 27-24. Because DK Metcalf made like 4 insane catches. JSN was making great plays. Justin Jefferson made like some of the best catches, some of the best routes. Addison had a touchdown. Hawkinson made an insane 4th and 4 catch on the sidelines. What's his name? Barner made a crazy catch at the back of the end zone to take the lead for Seattle at the end of this game. This was just Geno and Sam putting on a show. And ultimately, I thought the team that gave their quarterback a little bit more time and protection won the game. Like Darnold, 22 for 35, 246 and 3, scrambled a couple times. Geno threw a couple picks. He threw one early because he was hit while he was thrown, and he threw one late when they were trying to go for a game-tying drive, which is understandable, I guess. But, Geno's pick, the first one, was a tough one because it gave the Vikings a short field that ended up in a field goal. So that might have ultimately been the difference. But Geno also made some absolute big-time, big balls throws. I mean, he made some BBs down the field, especially in the 2-minute, in the final minute of the second quarter. Barner on that drive, that great drive at the end to set up the touchdown. The DK Metcalf touchdown was beautiful. A little bit of a push-off by Metcalf. JSN is awesome. JSN, I don't know where he ranks as a receiver. You guys let me know, but I think he's really, really good. He continues to be like one of the shiftiest, toughest to tackle slot receivers, really good route runner, always open. He's an awesome player. I'd love to have him on my team. 8 catches, 12 targets, 95 yards, and a touchdown. Jay Jettas went off, 10 catches, 13 targets, 144 yards, and 2 touchdowns for Jefferson. Seattle was 2 for 10 on third down, and Minnesota was 3 for 12. Imagine that, guys. Seattle was 2 for 10. They scored 24 points. Minnesota was 3 for 12. They scored 27 points. That's what I'm talking about right there. Like, it was just explosive plays, explosive throws, because the run game was non-existent. Aaron Jones had 67 yards on 18 carries. That's 3.7 yards per carry. Kenneth Walker had 3.9 yards per carry. Charbonnet didn't do much. Like, this was just quarterbacks going at it. And I'm tired of, Sam Darnold is good. I'm tired of, Sam Darnold, people saying Sam Darnold is not, good. Sam Darnold is good. This year, Sam Darnold has been good. Notice how I'm not saying he's phenomenal. He's not MVP. He's not elite. But the guy is good. There's just too many throws he makes where I'm like, that is impressive. There's too many throws in tight windows. There's too many throws down the field. There's too many explosive passes he makes. Too many scrambles on third down. Too many plays. He and Geno are very similar players, actually. They both are like oddly accurate from within the pocket at the second level. They both can make impressive pocket throws at all levels of the field. They can extend plays just a little bit. They can run just a little bit. Right? They panic a little bit under pressure, both of them. But Darnold has the better scheme, the better offense, the better overall, all that stuff, offensive line. Geno, I'm tired of Seahawks fans blaming Geno, bro. Like, Geno is not amazing. But when you have to throw 43 times a game, there's a reason that only Tom Brady is good in this environment, all right? Like, Geno Smith, you can't rely on Geno Smith to throw 43 times against the Minnesota Vikings defense and win. And he almost won here. 31 completions against this defense. 31 times. And they have no run game to speak of. Like, none. And I did notice in this game that the Vikings defense, like their back end, their second level, their back end is extremely slow. Like, they're slow. I feel like if you've got a good, accurate passer from the pocket, you've got athleticism at receiver, you can really take advantage of this defense, this secondary. I haven't really noticed it too much this year because their front seven goes crazy. Like, Van Ginkel went crazy again in this game, but their back end, like even Gilmore got beat by Metcalf. Like, their back end getting beat. Their back end slow. Like, you can make some plays. So that's the concerning part about the Vikings, in my opinion. From what I saw in this game is that secondary, that speed, that capacity right there. We've got 3 games remaining. Jacksonville and the Raiders. I'm not really going to bore you with this one. 19-14 Raiders win. Raiders held the edge in first downs and yardage barely. O'Connell had 257 yards. No touchdowns, no picks. Mac Jones, 25 for 39, 247 and a touchdown. What do you know? Brian Thomas has a superb game. 9 catches on 13 targets for 132 and a touchdown. Brock Bowers, 11 catches for 99 yards, 13 targets. Another game with a low yards per catch, but a lot of catches for Brock Bowers. Brian Thomas is amazing. And a lot of sloppy football. Penalties, 8 for Jacksonville, 7 for the Raiders, 7 punts for Jacksonville, 6 for the Raiders. This game was 13-6, like 99% of the game. It was so boring. And then, just a lot of sloppiness. Just bad football teams. But, Mac Jones loses, Jacksonville loses to the Raiders. Mac loses to the Raiders again. I think that's like the 4th time he's lost the Raiders. And that actually helps the Patriots in their desire for a higher draft pick because that allows the Raiders to move behind the Patriots, Jacksonville to move behind the Patriots as well. So both those teams are, I think, like in the top 6 in the draft, but the Patriots are now at number 2. We'll talk about the Patriots in a second. We've got to go with the Niners and the Dolphins first. The Dolphins finished it off 29-17, a late touchdown by Devon Achane to seal it. It was a pretty even game overall. Like, I think the score is a little misleading just because Achane put it away late. And the Niners had opportunities to definitely win this game. They had an opportunity with a missed field goal from Moody that was rather manageable. And then also Brock Purdy threw a pick on a potential game-tying or game-leading drive at the end that kind of dictated the game. Like, they had an opportunity at the end to, like, have a chance, and he threw a pick. He got hit, he threw a pick. I'm just not in on Purdy. Like, I'm done. Like, I'm done with Purdy. Like, I just don't think he's it. Like, I'm officially there. Like, I'm there at this point. Like, I like the kid. I think he's decent. I think he's like a mid quarterback, but he just needs too much help around him. He needs too much managing. He's not a smart enough quarterback. Like, he makes a lot of mistakes. Every time they get behind in a game, it's like he can't make the throws. He can't come back. he's, bro, like he's like a little bit better than Jimmy Garoppolo right now. Like the stats will tell you different, but my eyes tell me the same. Like he's more athletic. He can extend more plays, and he has more testicles than Jimmy Garoppolo. But he just, his arm, his accuracy, his just inability to take profit. Like Tua looked like the much better quarterback in this game. And Tua was not amazing. He had 215 yards and a touchdown. But this is an elite Niner defense against the pass. I think they're like first against passing yards, believe it or not. They're like the best in the league, I think, or second in passing yards allowed per game. And Tua had 215 yards. Now, a lot of them are screens. A lot of them, you watch Miami's offense. A lot of it's Devon Achane on a swing pass, Jonnu Smith on a screen, a play action rollout. But I just feel like Tua plays a lot smarter with the ball. He doesn't put the ball in harm's way as often as Purdy. He doesn't have the feet or the rushing ability that Purdy does, but he's more accurate. He's more on time. And I think he does a better job of just not having negative plays in big moments in a game. Like, and I think both these guys are flawed. But like Tua right now is playing better than Brock. Like Brock, statistically, again, like his numbers look decent. 313 yards, 2 touchdowns, interception, 26 for 40. That looks pretty good. But like Debo played his best game in like 8 weeks. He had 7 catches for 96 yards and a touchdown. He actually played really well. Kittle played well again. Like he was really good in the screen game, especially. The Niners got no running game, and I think this is the biggest flaw for the Niners right now. They had no running game. Like they've had no running game for like a month plus. Like Patrick Taylor did nothing. He had 3 yards a carry. Last week they couldn't run the ball against the Rams. Like their run game is dead. They have no running game, which completely ruins the core concept of the Shanahan offense. This was actually the best rushing day for the Dolphins in a long time, and a lot of it had to do with a 50-yard touchdown. But like Jawan Jennings, he was fine. He didn't play amazing. I thought Ricky Pearsall played a little bit better than usual. The O-line for the Niners, though, suffered a lot of injuries, and that definitely had Purdy under some pressure in this game. And there's only so much you can do. I mean, you're down to your backup left tackle. He gets hurt. You have your third string left tackle. Your left guard gets hurt. He leaves the game. You gotta work around that. Like, there's a lot going on with the offensive line there. They already have a ton of injuries. Dre Greenlaw, he should rest for the rest of the year. But again, like, I just thought Miami, they were just the more sound team. They took less penalties. Like the Niners had some big penalties in the red zone at times that cost them points. Like the Niners had 11 penalties for 90 yards. Illegal formations, illegal shifts, holding. Every time it felt like they had a big play, holding. I don't know how much of that is referee dependent, but Miami played a little cleaner. They didn't turn it over. They kicked their field goals. They made their field goals. Sanders is a better kicker than... That was basically the game. Sanders outplayed Moody. Tua made less mistakes than Purdy. They didn't make as many penalties. That was basically it. Right? 381... It was almost identical. 374 yards for San Fran, 381 for Miami. San Fran was actually better on third down. Almost the same amount of first downs. Miami had more sacks because Purdy holds on the ball way too long. Miami only punted twice. So there's that. A lot of field goals for Miami. Miami's offense is just a little bit more sound than San Francisco's. Just in terms of think O-line play, run game, things like that. Penalties. Let's finish it off with the Buffalo Bills and the New England Patriots. This has been a long review. Appreciate you guys tuning in. If you've tuned in this long, say Brady in the comments. Appreciate you. 24-21 Buffalo Bills over the New England Patriots in a surprising result. 24-21. Surprising because the Patriots could have won this game. Patriots fans, Pats Nation, we could have beaten the Buffalo Bills in their building. 24-21. The Patriots led this game 14-0 at one point. And they never really could fully take control once it was 14-0. They couldn't get over the top. They just couldn't do it, right? After it was 14-0, James Cook hit a home run touchdown to make it 14-7, 46-yard touchdown. James Cook in the third quarter, early third quarter, also had a touchdown to make it 14-14. The Bills scored a field goal on another drive, and they scored a touchdown from Drake May throwing the ball backwards near our own end zone inside our 10-yard line, which I'm not sure should be a play call regardless. Just saying. Throwing it a backwards pass to Ramondre Stevenson. Ramondre Stevenson gets lit up by, I want to say, Greg Rousseau. Ball goes in the end zone. Buffalo scores. That's how they beat us in this game, 24-21. A backwards pass. That it was called a backwards pass. It was. But Drake didn't think it was. He threw it backwards. Running back hit. Touchdown. Now, I will say, that was Drake's worst play of the game by a long margin. And the reason I say that is when we talked about Jared Goff. Understand when to take the risk. Understand when to not have that negative play. And Drake's got to understand, even if we're losing the game at that point and we need points, you've got to put that ball on the turf. You've got to live to play another day. The best thing that happens there is Stevenson catches it and loses 2 yards. That's the best thing that happens. Or maybe he breaks 2 tackles and makes a play, but very, very, very slim chance, right? So just take the loss on that play. Don't allow your running back to get hit and potentially hurt, and don't have a potential turnover, fumble, interception. The worst things can happen there, right? That being said, Drake May played really well, especially in the first half. He was 22 for 36, 261, 2 touchdowns and interception. Ran the ball a little bit as well. The Patriots had 28 first downs in this game, which I think might have been the most first downs of any team I've seen in this video. 28 first downs. They were 7 for 12 on third down, a lot of it coming from Drake May. 2 for 2 on fourth down, and had 379 total yards. They had more yards than Buffalo. They had more passing yards by 100. Drake May had more passing yards than Josh Allen by 100. Okay? They had 9 more first downs. They were better on third down. They punted less. The Patriots turned the ball over twice. One of them was for a touchdown. One of them was in the end zone where Austin Hooper slipped and the ball was intercepted. It's another play. And there was just a lot of examples of sloppiness. Stevenson fumbled. Patriots turned it over 3 times. The Bills turned it over once, but the turnover that the Patriots got was caught in the end zone by Marte Mapu. And then he ran it out to the 1-yard line and got stuffed. I don't know why he thought he was Ed Reed, but he decided that he was Champ Bailey and thought he was going to run it back for a touchdown. Instead, he was rejected like an idiot. Idiot. There was a number of moments in this game where I thought the Patriots should have been more aggressive, pressing the issue. More aggressive as an underdog, 14-point dog, 14.5-point dog. Press the issue. Go for it on fourth down. And the defense actually impressed me a lot in this game because there was a lot of chances for Buffalo to take control of the game, to come back. And New England's defense consistently played really solid. I thought that we had a good rush plan against Josh Allen. When we did blitz, we blitzed and contained correctly. Josh really didn't run that well in this game. Had very small opportunity to do so. I thought our coverage was great. Jonathan Jones played the best game I've seen him play all year. Christian Gonzalez, I didn't really hear from him because nobody threw against him the whole day. Alex Austin played good. I thought that Marte Mapu had the best game of his season. Kyle Duggar played more aggressive. Our run defense, though, still pretty awful. Like James Cook, 11 rushes, 100 yards, 9.1 yards per carry. Davis ran all over us. Ty Johnson had a couple runs on us. Like, they ran all over us. Now, that being said, New England ran pretty well, too. I mean, Stevenson had 60 yards on 5.0 yards per carry and a touchdown. Kind of odd that after he fumbled, he didn't really get a lot of action after that. I'd like to see him in there more often, especially, when we have that sequence at the goal line. Rather have him in there than Gibson. Gibson played okay. Kayshon Boutte played pretty well. 5 catches, 95 yards and a touchdown. Had that long, beautiful throw by Drake May for a touchdown. Unbelievable throw. It reminds me of Brady to LaFell against the Ravens in the 2015 divisional round. Perfect deep ball. Henry played really well. Hooper played solid other than the slip. And May was great, man. Like, again, they blitzed him a lot early in this game, and they were not getting there. And May was getting the ball out, and he was on time, and he was accurate, and he was beating it. Like, they were running, like, just little, quick outs to Henry or, like, a stop route or, like, a quick slant or something, and May was just always on time. He always knew where to go with the ball with the blitz. He was never phased. Like, they blitzed them a ton. I think the Bills were trying stuff because they're like, we're getting ripped up the previous weeks. We're playing a bad receiving core. We're playing a bad O-line. They can't pick up stunts. They can't pick up blitzes. We're gonna do this constantly. We're gonna get after them. And Drake was like, nah, I got the answers. 28 first downs. So many of them like that. And the thing is with New England, like, they don't have a lot of explosive players, so they don't create a lot of chunk plays. A lot of it is like, a lot of quick throws. But Douglas, I thought, also had a pretty good game. Shout out to him. I thought the Patriots played good, man. Like, the Bills are way better than the Patriots. Like, they're a better team. They're more talented. We are not talented. I thought this was actually, like, I was ripping Gerard Mayo the entire stream. Honestly, this was Gerard Mayo's, like, best game as a coach. Like, if I had to say one game where I thought the Patriots played above their heads, they played a good game, they nearly won. It was one of his best games. One of his 2 or 3 best games. Like, the mistakes by the players are going to happen. Like, Hooper slips, it's an interception. Drake maybe forces the ball. That ended up in that play. Stevenson fumbles. Like, that's not Gerard's fault. I can't, going for it on a fake punt. That's a great call. Who made that call? Special teams, Gerard, regardless. That's a good call. Being prepared defensively. I thought the Patriots played great defensively in this game. Run defense is a problem. Okay, but Josh Allen, to hold Josh Allen to 154 is a great, and a 67 passer rating, that's a great performance by the defense. I don't care what you tell me, especially in Buffalo. I know that it is cold, and I know that the balls are rock and all that stuff, and it's hard to move the ball that way. And Allen and the Bills were playing in a dome previously, but that's a great game defensively. Tight coverage, sticky. Our pass rush is pretty pathetic, but, like, I thought we had a good plan to kind of play this style against Josh. And then our run game was solid. I thought Van Pelt called a really good game, especially in the first half. The screens, the play action, the quick throws, the empty stuff. We had a chance in this game, man. We had a chance. I knew when we didn't get the ball back at the end we were going to lose, though, because we can't stop them from running the ball. Like, our run defense has got to be a lot better. But the Patriots, like, I said it in the middle of the stream, I think this team's going to make the playoffs next year because Drake May is that good. And if we make a couple improvements with the most cap space in football and the second overall pick, we could legit be talking about a playoff team here if we have competent coaching. Like, legitimately. This kid's for real, bro. Like, this guy, he's for real. So, I'm impressed by my team. I'm proud of my team today. I thought they played good. So, 24-21, Bills win. Not overly impressive by Buffalo. They got the job done. It was a divisional game. It was cold. It was a letdown spot. I totally understand it. At the same time, I thought the most concerning part about the performance by the Bills, despite how good New England's offense has been lately, in my opinion, like, they have been very underrated, the defense was still very shaky, especially early in the game. And I think some of that has to do with injuries, but I just like to see a little bit better in the run game. A little bit more ability to rush the quarterback with 4 instead of having to blitz to get pressure, right? Like, especially against this O-line. And Drake's awesome, so it's hard to say, but, Drake was really shredding early. They did play really good in the second half, mostly. Like, they made some really opportunistic plays and stuff like that, but yeah, it was not a pretty performance by Buffalo. And if I'm a Bills fan, I could see how I would be a little bit annoyed. But I wouldn't be concerned because it's a divisional game. You know, we just saw the Eagles lose a game like this, but like, to me, like, it's a divisional game. It's cold as hell. You just beat the Lions. It's the Patriots. You're a 14-point favorite. You're sleepwalking. You know what I mean? So, like, I get it. At the same time, I still am going to be watching this defense closely. I think next week they play the Jets. We'll see how that goes. The defense definitely has an ability to let them down. But I felt like this was one of the better performances by a defense against Buffalo all year. I mean, they've scored 30 points like 8 games in a row, 9, 10 games in a row, it feels like. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. It's Mitch. Gronk, spike the like button, comment Brady if you lasted this long, and subscribe. Peace, guys. Thank you so much for watching.